Hello everyone and welcome on this new video of the channel. I know it's been a while since I published my video on my first semester of architecture school, and by the way, I truly appreciated your comments. You really gave me some amazing feedback and I can only thank you for all of your comments. Well, you seem to really appreciate the way I've been making this video and the way I've been teaching you about architecture studies, and I thought it could be interesting to bring you with me during the creation of a model, all the creative process behind it, what the materials we were using, and that's why I suddenly stopped making my model base, which is just right here, and which is basically a rectangular volume. By the way, this video is a great way to teach you some interesting stuff about architecture, the way we create space in real life. For instance, this will be a model of a house from Franck Lloyd Wright, which is a really famous architect from the 20th century. You may have already heard about him because he has made some incredible buildings such as the Guggenheim Museum in New York or even Falling Water House. Here are some photos of his works he has made during his life, but together we will focus on less famous house, which is entitled Goestch-Winckler House, which is located in the United States. If I remember well, Michigan State. Let's confirm that information later. Anyway, I hope you will enjoy this video, seeing all the process that's behind a model, even though that's not my project. And yeah, that's it. Let's start this video. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is my model base, which I've been making earlier. Actually, it isn't finished yet, because as you can see with the lines right here, I need to make some ground layers with some cardboard. I bought some of these at the store, and as you can see, that's kind of big. That's why we need to cut them. And by the way, I think that's a good way to present you what we will be using during this video. First of all, I think that's the most important thing. This is a cutter. We will also need some glue. It's like wood glue, I don't know the name in English. Here's a smaller version of cutter, which is useful when we need to be much more precise with the cardboard. And finally, one criterion which is much more precise than a pencil and which will be really useful to draw the information we need to put on the model base. As you can see just right here, there are already some marks I've been drawing earlier that inform us about the house location. Now that I've been explaining all of that, let's cut the cardboard and make these ground layers. Well, I've just finished the ground layers of the model, but as you may have noticed the sun is going down because it's almost 9:30. Honestly, I think it will be better for you if I continue this work tomorrow morning, so even though it will be only a few seconds for you. Let's see us tomorrow. Okay, so before we continue with this model and this Tuesday class of project, I wanted to tell you a little bit more about this house, because its history is interesting to know to better understand how and why it has been created.
First, to give you some historic and geographic context, this house was built in 1940 in the small city of Okemos, Michigan. Two professors, Alma Goethe and Katrin Winkler from the Michigan State University, not so far from Okemos, decided to buy 40 acres of land with 6 other professors. They wanted to create a real community with these other professors, and that's why they decided to contact Franck Lloyd Wright, which was already a well-known architect, especially for his prairie houses built in the beginning of the century, or even Falling Water House, which has been built a few years ago. To go back to our house, originally this community was supposed to be composed of several houses. However, despite the fact that many designs were imagined by Franck Lloyd Wright for this community, for some reasons it hasn't been built at all. The only 2 designs that were constructed were Browner Residence and Goestch-Winckler House, both located in Okemos. Okay, a little voiceover to tell you a little bit about the house itself during the free time I had in the project studio class of Tuesday, especially to start making the first walls of this building. Here's the floor plan. What I'm building first is mainly this part on the right, which includes the living room, the kitchen and the dining room. Let's say that this house has the particularity, as many houses of Franck Lloyd Wright, to have a very open living room. There are no partitions between the kitchen and the dining room, for example, and the only walls of the house delimit only the more private spaces, like the 2 bedrooms or the bathroom. What this creates is a huge freedom of movement, which is obviously what Wright was looking for this building. Anyway, let's go back to the construction of this central chimney of the living room and the first walls of this house.
Well, that was all for this project class of Tuesday. At the moment, I've only been making some walls and at least the central chimney of the house, but there's definitely so much more to do next. That's why I really need to work on it again so that it can be done for next Tuesday, which is the deadline for this model. That's why I'll try my best to at least finish all the inside walls of the building for this evening, so that the 2 ceilings can be added to the house as soon as possible. So let's do that.
At this point, I noticed that I was missing a few wooden sticks, not to create the house post, but to make the outside trees. That's why I went to the store to buy these 1 meter long circular sticks made of walnut tree. Since it was already Monday evening, I had to be quick so as not to lose any time just before the Tuesday rendering. Okay guys, so I just came back from the store again to buy these little sticks just right here that will help me to do the trees of the model. We're currently on Monday evening, that means I'm a little bit late as I still need to add some elements to the model. But there's one good news, it's that I think it will be possible to achieve that for tomorrow morning on time without any sleepless night, which is something, unfortunately, as I said it in my first semester video, that is quite rare, but that's not the case for this project, and there's one reason behind it. As I said it earlier in the video, that's not my project. That's Franck Lloyd Wright project. That means that there were no creative process behind it, at least not my creative process. This house already exists in the real world. Plans of this project already existed, as well as sections, elevations, and any kind of document an architect will need to make a model. And that gave me some extra time to focus on the model and to be much more precise than it was the case with previous projects, for instance. And as we near the end of this video, I can already say that it was maybe one of the best projects I had to work on. At least something very different from what I've been used to in the past few months. Well, let's go back to the video to finish this model by adding some final elements such as furniture, surrounding trees with the wood sticks. There are also some poles to add, and maybe even more importantly, the two roofs of this house. So let's finish that model. Well, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed seeing all this creative process that's behind the model. We usually create models from projects we had to imagine, so that one was a little bit special. We don't just do analysis in architecture school, but it truly helps us develop an architectural culture, especially in our first year. Anyway, if you liked or disliked this content, feel free to leave a comment below to give me some feedback about this video. And just before we leave, here's a small compilation of other projects made by people from my class. Enjoy, and I'll see you in the next video.